There are two ways in which the newly released Tesla Cybertruck points to the existence of God.
What? Yeah, that was my reaction as well, but okay, how does the Tesla Cybertruck prove God exists?
Please subscribe. Here's the outline of my first argument. Number one, some things are beautiful. The Cybertruck is beautiful. Two, if God does not exist, it's very surprising that anything beautiful exists. Three, if God does exist, it's not very surprising that anything beautiful exists. Four, so beautiful things provide strong evidence for God.
Seriously, but beauty is subjective, and if the Cybertruck had a face, it would be the type of face that only a mother could love.
But let me just say a couple things in defense of this first argument. So the premise that a lot of you are probably thinking about attacking is premise one. Some of you very likely and very wrongly think that the Cybertruck is ugly. But note, the Cybertruck could be ugly and the first premise still be true. I'm using the Cybertruck as one example of beauty, but I could easily cite other examples like beautiful sunsets or Muhammad Hijab's smile. These things are objectively beautiful, and there's not a single thing that any of you could say that would convince me otherwise.
Yeah, but subjectivity is based on personal feelings and opinions, not facts.
Another objection you might have is that beauty is not objective, but my argument actually still works. Even if beauty is subjective, I think beauty is objective.
Now, while some aspects of beauty might seem universal, like symmetry or proportions, beauty is still largely subjective, and it's influenced by personal taste, cultural backgrounds, and even individual experiences. And what's beautiful to one person might not be to another. And cultural perceptions of beauty can vary massively. So while there might be some common threads, beauty is still mostly in the eye of the beholder. I'm starting to feel like I'm walking into a trap with this one. What do you think? Comment below and let me know.
But subjective conscious experiences of beauty are still very surprising if God does not exist.
Why though? That literally makes no sense whatsoever. So is your claim that if somebody doesn't believe in God, they never get to experience beauty?
Let's think about this. We would never, and I mean never, expect subjective experiences of beauty to suddenly pop into existence from random configurations of physical objects.
But we would, and we do, and you've just highlighted one example in your own video. You say the Cybertruck is a beautiful truck. I say it's but ugly. That's a subjective viewpoint. My subjective view is that it's ugly. Your subjective view is that it's a beautiful truck.
Given atheism, where the foundation of reality is mindless.
Hang on a second, I can see exactly what you're trying to do now, and I've seen it time and time again. First of all, atheism doesn't inherently make any specific claims about the foundation of reality being mindless or not. Some atheists might lean towards a naturalistic or scientific understanding of reality, which could possibly be interpreted as mindless in the sense that it doesn't need a creator, which is why people like you bring it up, incidentally. But you have to remember, atheism itself isn't a comprehensive worldview. It's just about the lack of belief in gods, and the rest can vary a hell of a lot from person to person.
There's absolutely no reason to think that there would be any genuine conscious experiences of beauty. From mindlessness comes.
Now, in my humble opinion, for what it's worth, and clearly it's not worth much because I don't believe in God, but isn't the belief in God mindless itself? Now, bear with me before you freak out and start unsubscribing and leaving mean comments. What I mean is, most people who believe in God because they've been told by another person who already believes in God that God is real. None of them have ever seen anything that proves God's existence, so they are believing in a mindless fashion.
This brings me to the second and third premises in my argument. God's existence makes the existence of beautiful things way more probable than it would otherwise be. God values beauty and therefore has reason to bring about beautiful things.
Now, the Bible does touch on the topic of beauty in various ways, and it often emphasizes inner beauty and character over physical appearance. And here's a few examples from what you consider to be the word of God. In 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 3-4, it's mentioned that a person's beauty should not come from outward adornment, but from the inner self. And the Bible also says that what is beautiful in God's eyes size can be different from what humans typically value. In 1 Samuel chapter 16 verse 7, it's mentioned that while people look at the outward appearance, the Lord looks at the heart. So aren't the words of your own God contradicting your argument there?
Beauty does actually provide really strong evidence for God's existence, and since the Cybertruck is beautiful, it definitely points to God.
In your opinion, your subjective opinion, I still say the Cybertruck is butt ugly. Sorry, Elon, but it is. Look at it.
The second way in which the Cybertruck points to God is that the Cybertruck is dependent, and dependent things require God.
Do they? Well, that's nice, isn't it? And I'm sure you're going to explain to us how.
What do I mean by dependent? By dependent, I simply mean that something relies on something else for its existence.
Yeah, I can see exactly where this video is going. Everything that exists is dependent on something else existing to bring it into existence. And I know exactly what's going to be said. If we were having a conversation face to face, I know exactly what the next thing you would say would be. You would say, but yes, you believe that the universe created itself from nothing. To which I would say, no, because that isn't what the Big Bang describes. Now, if we're talking about nothing bringing something into existence, how exactly did God do it? Just magic? And who made God? And where was he before he created everything? Because as you just said, everything that exists is dependent on there being something to have created it. Why would God be the only exception to that rule? I tell you who created the concept of God: men. And let me explain why I singled out men. It's because there is not a woman on the face of the earth who would be that stupid.
And as I say, the second argument is actually a lot stronger than the first one, but it will require some abstract thinking.
Yeah, I bet it will, because you certainly can't use logical thinking to arrive at the conclusion that God is real. And of course, it's going to be more valid than your first point, because as your own video is demonstrating, your first point was completely pointless.
So, premise 5. There are some things that exist dependently, i.e. the Cybertruck. 6. If there are some things that exist dependently, then there is something that exists independently.
Hang on a second, now this could be my misunderstanding, although I don't think it is, for once. But you've already said that nothing can exist in any state other than dependently, because everything needs to have been brought into existence by something else. What's with the sudden rule change? Is this what they mean when they say you're moving the goalposts?
7. So there is something that exists independently, from 5 and 6. 8. The best explanation for why something exists independently is that God exists.
No. Well, that may be the best explanation for you. Things exist regardless of human perception or understanding. For example, Mount Everest was there long before humans ever discovered or named it, and it remains there irrespective of whether anyone is observing it or even thinking about it. And again, yes, I do realize that he would now probably say, so you do accept that God made Mount Everest. So I say once again, no, not a chance, pal. Mount Everest, like other parts of the Himalayas, was formed by the movement of tectonic plates, and this uplifting process is still going on today. The Himalayas are rising a little bit every year. No God required.
Similarly, to explain all dependent things, we've got to look outside of all dependent things. What could be outside of all dependent things? Something independent. So, something independent exists.
These are such weak arguments. The sun exists and functions independently of other things on Earth. But that doesn't mean that God made the sun. The sun was formed about 4.6 billion years ago from a solar nebula, a massive cloud of gas and dust. And it was pulled together by gravity and then collapsed, forming a spinning protostar at its center. And as the protostar's core heated up and became denser, it eventually ignited nuclear fusion, where hydrogen atoms fused into helium, releasing vast amounts of energy. And this process marked the birth of the sun, stopping the collapse and causing the protostar to shine as we see the sun today. And this is a common process in the universe for star formation, showcasing the incredible forces at play in astrophysics. Not God's magic.
Another even quicker way of showing that something independent exists is to realize that the totality of all reality, not just dependent things, has to exist independently. Let's think about that. There's nothing that exists outside of all total reality.
Exactly, that's my point, and that's why some people are atheist. Because using the definition of reality that I'm familiar with, there's no way God fits into that. Which is why people like me don't believe he exists in the first place.
So this brings us to premise 8. And first, let me say that unlike the other two premises, I think atheists can reasonably reject this premise, but...
Oh, thanks a bunch. You've just spoiled what I was going to say next.
I happen to be convinced that it's true, and I want to share my reasons for thinking this. And by the way, if you're considering leaving the video at this point, I get it, but I definitely recommend that you push through, because this next section might actually resolve some doubts that you have about God's existence. So just hear me out.
Well, I wouldn't count on it, mate, but we've made it this far, so why not?
Okay, so far in the argument, we've arrived at something that exists independently. But this actually raises a really, really interesting question. Why does anything exist independently? How is that even possible? Adding up a whole bunch of dependent things together doesn't equate to an independent thing.
I completely agree, and I'm definitely not going to bring up the fact that you said the exact opposite earlier on in this video.
If we were to add up all of the dependent things in my office, that doesn't make my office suddenly exist independently. So how does the totality of reality exist independently if everything within reality exists dependently?
Hang on just a second. So are you arguing that an independent structured reality suggests a creator, potentially pointing to God's existence? Now, I view reality as being governed by natural laws and processes without the need for a supernatural creator. And in this perspective, the existence and structure of the universe are explained through science and empirical evidence rather than attributing them to a god. The focus is on understanding reality based on observable, measurable phenomena, demonstrating that the universe operates autonomously from any divine intervention. Okay, now before you dash off, I want to talk to you about something. Now, for a few weeks, I've been showing the names of my supporters like this on the screen, and one of those lovely people who shall remain nameless for now messaged me a really good idea. So, each video throughout January, I'll use a random name picker to choose one person from these lists, and I'll give that person a shout out in the video I choose their name in. And then the first video I upload in February, I'll put the chosen names back into a random name picker and choose a winner. And that person will receive a free item of merch from the merch store. And to be honest, I'm glad this person gave me the idea, because I've been trying to come up with a way of giving something back to the people who support me every month via memberships or Patreon. And this was really easy to do. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning a free item of merch, you can either click the join button below this video, or you can head over to my Patreon page and sign up there. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Oh, you're still here then. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe even learned something new. If you did, then you'll probably enjoy this video as well. Don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're new. And I will see you all again very soon, or in a few minutes if you do decide to watch this recommended video. Love you, bye.